Chuck Gowdy and the I-Team sat down with Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx, and between the two of them, they kind of got it figured out.
Oh, really?
Take a listen.
Before she leaves office early next year, she wants traffic stop-based searches by police to be prohibited unless there is a public safety threat.
Doing these searches, again, searches that have a disproportionate impact on Black and brown communities that don't net a public safety benefit, we should not do that.
Under this newly drafted state's attorney policy that has been obtained tonight by the I-Team, traffic stops for routine, minor infractions would not be allowed, and the state's attorney would decline to prosecute cases that are solely the product of a non-public safety traffic stop, even if a gun, drugs, or stolen property were found during the subsequent search. For instance, the case of Dexter Reed, if he hadn't been stopped under a policy that would prevent non-public safety kinds of stops, he would probably still be alive today, but at the same time, you'd have an individual with a gun. Where's the balancing factor in that?
I would also say we'd have a police officer who wasn't shot in the line of duty as well.
See, there you go.
Oh, my God.
No traffic stop searches means no criminals like Dexter Reed are killed, and no cops are shot by criminals like Dexter Reed. There you go, right? A former Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson joins us now. Superintendent Johnson, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, good morning, Dan and Amy. Good morning.
So, do you see any problem there with what Kim Foxx is proposing?
Yeah, I see a huge problem with it. You know, here's the thing. I think I know what she's trying to get at, illegal stops, and I get that. But if we don't want the cops pulling people over for different violations, then take those violations off the books. How about that? You can't tell me, okay, a cop pulls someone over for, let's say, an expired license plate, and they run into a kidnapped person in the trunk of someone's vehicle. That just makes no sense to me. So you're not going to prosecute because of that? I mean, you don't know if these things are going to occur unless the cop makes the traffic stop. So it just doesn't make sense to me. And just let me say this up front. Kim Foxx and I had a great relationship when I was superintendent, and we were able to talk through a lot of issues. That doesn't mean we wouldn't disagree from time to time. And I have to say, on face value for this particular thing, I disagree on it, because I just think that traffic stops give rise to police officers, not just in Chicago, but across this country, being able to find out, illegal activity, illegal guns, illegal narcotics, everything. So I get what she's saying about disproportionate in Black and brown communities. I get that. But at the same time, I also get that we have a disproportionate amount of crime in those neighborhoods also. And those people in those neighborhoods want the police to arrest these kind of people.
Well, does she ever listen to anybody? Because I've heard you say this. I've heard Superintendent Brown say, I've talked to her about it. Did you ever convince her to change her mind on anything during your time as superintendent?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, because the detectives and the assistant state's attorneys, of course, they work on all the shooting and homicide cases together. And we had several instances where they didn't see eye to eye, and maybe the assistant state's attorney didn't want to charge on those cases, and it would escalate up to me, and then, of course, I would call her. And I have to tell you, I really don't remember a time when she said no in terms of charging. So, yeah, I was able to convince her of certain things. Policy decisions like this, we talked about, and we would come to a happy medium a lot of times, So perhaps if I was there still, we may not be talking about this. I don't know that. I can't say that. But I just don't see a blanket policy like this. Again, if you don't want to prosecute minor traffic offenses like that and the subsequent fruits of that, then take those laws off the books. That's the way to do it, not just, make a general policy and say we're not going to charge if you pull people over for these particular offenses.
Well, yeah, but taking traffic offenses off the books, that doesn't sound like a particularly good policy either. I mean, these her concern about Fourth Amendment violations, illegal searches. Well, Right. Well, there's Supreme Court case law on this. There are rules of the road, as so to speak, for police when it comes to vehicle searches. And if a police
Absolutely.
officer makes an illegal vehicle search, well, then there is a court of law to remedy that transgression. So it seems like it's a problem, a solution in search of a problem, since there are already guardrails here. And I think that's why, for example, Alderhuman Savannah Tabarez said that Kim Foxx is the biggest pro-criminal advocate in the nation. Is Alderhuman Tabarez wrong on that?
I'm not going to go that far, but that certainly gives us pause for concern. But you're absolutely right in terms of it wouldn't be a good policy to take those laws off the books. But so what I'm saying regarding that is I know that would be a difficult hill to climb for anyone to do, because then that means there would have to be several people on board with doing something like that. I mean, let's face it, these traffic violations do, if we're going to be real about it, those violations do give police calls to stop people and give rise to finding out about different crimes. So I just think this whole thing is just, I don't understand. I don't like it, and I think that it really needs to be discussed and not be done in a vacuum.
You know what, people? We were having this conversation earlier in the program, and one of the callers made the point too. That reminded me of something that you said back when you were superintendent, and I don't know exactly what the number was, but basically you said something like, look, there's about 1,500 or 2,000 people in this city that we know are likely to commit a crime and that we know are likely to be shot because they're part of ongoing criminal activity. And this is not getting into pre-crime, like we're going to start arresting people before they commit crimes. That's not what I'm saying, of course. But it's like this. I think residents of Chicagoland, who love the city, whether you're in the city or outside it, look at this and say, how is it that you have a political class conspiring essentially with a small group of habitual criminals and holding the city hostage with respect to the majority who support police enforcement, who believe in people's individual rights, of course, and are sensible about this? It seems like you have a very unsensible group of people that are conspiring to hold the majority of sensible people hostage. How can this be?
Yes, that's absolutely right. So what that caller was referring to, so back when I was superintendent, we had about 120,000 documented gang members in the city. And out of that 120,000, there was about 2,000 that we knew absolutely would be victims of gun violence or commit gun violence based on their previous histories. And those individuals we would try to reach out to get them out of that lifestyle. So that's a small percentage of the people in Chicago that's actually committing these crimes. So you want to focus your resources towards those individuals to keep them out of that lifestyle as much as you can. But I tell you what this stuff does, and I said it when I was superintendent, and I'll say it now. If we think bad guys don't pay attention to what the mayor says, the superintendent says, or the state's attorney says, then we're fooling ourselves. And I'll give you a perfect example. So cops sent me a video this weekend where these two cops were chasing this guy for whatever crime. I don't know what crime he had committed. But you hear the people in the background yelling at the two cops, you can't chase him, you can't chase him. And then one guy clearly trips this female officer, so she can't chase this guy, right? So that happens because they see our leaders on TV saying what cops cannot do. And they take advantage of those types of things. That's why it's so important that I get we're trying to right the wrongs of decades of mistreatment in not just Chicago, but in America towards black and brown people. I get that. But you can't fix all of that in one fair swoop trying to make it right. Because what you're doing then is victimizing the law-abiding people in those communities. And that's not right.
I wanted to ask you about ShotSpotter going away. Mayor Johnson says it's racist, but yet, and that it's not effective, but yet we're keeping it until after the DNC. What's your perspective and thoughts on ShotSpotter? Does it work?
Yes, it absolutely does. Where I don't know how anybody could call it racist. That's just insane. It's not the police's fault that we have a disproportionate amount of gun violence in black and brown communities. That's the fault of the people that are doing it. I saw it work. I said it before. We started it off in the two of the two toughest neighborhoods in the city, in the 7th district and the 11th district, and the results were stunning in less than 60 days in terms of the decreases in gun violence. We have like 70% of gunshot calls not reported to 911. So we need a mechanism that will still direct the police to those possible gunshot victims. Since the time of its inception, the police have rendered aid to like 450 individuals, that we may not have been able to assist in that manner had we not been alerted by ShotSpotter. It cuts down the response time to gunshot calls. So I encourage everyone to go to SaveShotSpotter.com, even if your neighborhood is a challenge like that. If we make these parts of the city safer, then the entire city benefits from that. So go to SaveShotSpotter.com, and it takes 2 minutes, send your alderman a letter, and let them know to keep it. I'm very passionate about this because I just feel like everybody in this city, I don't care where you live, deserves to not just feel safe, but be safe. And ShotSpotter technology is one of the tools that police use to get to that environment for everybody in the city. And I said before, you can't put a price on public safety, and I really believe that. Everybody in this city deserves to feel safe.
Do you have conversations, and I'm not asking you to disclose private conversations, but do you have conversations with Superintendent Snelling?
Superintendent Snelling, I think, was a good choice, and he and I do talk from time to time, and I think he's doing the best that he can, and I know that he backs ShotSpotter because he's a street cop. He knows the effect that it has on these challenged communities. So I think
well, I know he backed ShotSpotter. He said so publicly, which was good for him that he did, that he publicly disagreed with the mayor. That's okay to do. But I guess where I was going with that is I wonder if you would provide assessment as to how concerned he is about police's ability to maintain order during the DNC.
Well, listen, I just looking at what he says, when he is speaking out there, look, I was police superintendent for almost 4 years. Anybody sitting in that seat is going to have a concern when the DNC gets there. If you don't have a concern, then you're not doing your job. Because we don't know let me digress. We know the things that could potentially go wrong. There's no such thing as 100% guaranteed safety. There just isn't. So you do the best that you can. You deploy as best you can. The good thing about this, you get the federal resources in, and then you get the assistance from police officers around the country that will actually come here and be deputized to help out with this. But of course he's concerned about it. You would be being disingenuous if you said you're not concerned. You want to put on a good face, of course, and don't get me wrong. I'm sure he's confident that they're training up and doing the best that they can, but you're still going to have a concern that things could go wrong.
He is former Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson. Superintendent Johnson, thanks again for joining us. Appreciate it.
No problem. You guys have a good day.
You too. Thank you so much. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
For anyone with everyday aches and pains, I've got a question. What are you missing out on? Probably a lot. So let me tell you about Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a drug-free daily supplement that helps your body fight pain naturally. It doesn't just mask pain, it helps reduce or even eliminate it. In about 3 weeks, you'll discover what it's like to feel better. Go to relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF and save on your first order. That's 1-800-4RELIEF.
Seth Holhouse brings hope and insight as he fights against socialism and communism on the Man in America podcast, now available on the Salem Podcast Network.
The role of the